Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, ChiroScript AI, Chiro Moguls, the Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 651 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the chance to interview Dr. Kelly Holt. And if you want to hear our conversation about what it's like to be a president of New Zealand College of Chiropractic, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today we have Dr. Kelly Holt coming in from New Zealand, president of New Zealand College of Chiropractic. I think it's going to be a great episode. We're going to chat about all things New Zealand. We're going to talk about the education. What does that look like? We're going to talk a little bit about how chiropractic is as a profession in New Zealand. And he is very invested in research, not only being our president. So we're going to talk about the importance of research within the chiropractic profession globally, not just here in the United States where I reside, but also over from New Zealand where he is. And I know that they have been doing a lot of fundamental work over there and producing great research for the profession globally. So before we get into Dr. Kelly Holt's story in episode 651, I will let you know our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, first things first, I think this is global recognition, but we support freedom of speech. We know what it's like to be traffic throttled and shadow banned and censored, and we would never do that to you. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They are not the same things, but if you wanted to have guidance, I would say go find a neighborhood chiropractor and ask them about these big idea questions when it comes to protecting your family out there in the free market when it comes to making decisions for you and your kids. Philosophically speaking, this resonates with me and most of our listeners is we protect BJ Palmer's sacred trust. I know that a lot of people don't know what that is. So if you go to our show notes, you want to learn more about chiropractic and why we protect the sacred trust. It's BJ Palmer's last words. I guarantee you're going to learn more about chiropractic than you previously did by understanding BJ Palmer's sacred trust. We support subluxation-centered chiropractic. We believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence, which creates educated intelligence. We believe that when man or woman the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman the spiritual. That might sound like some woo-woo, but if you have a chiropractic student in your life, or if you're a chiropractic student listening to this and they're taking these words out of your education, please share this with your group. Please share this with your tribe and share the show. That's the only fee I ask people for, is to share the show to their friends and family. And with that, Dr. Kelly Holt, welcome to the show.
Great to be on with you today, James.
Yeah, the pre-interview conversation was really amazing. I think that people are going to learn a great deal about chiropractic from the optics that you look through and the journey that you've been on. So you said you graduated from New Zealand, the college, and you worked within the college, and now you're president of the college. So let's refresh people on that journey and how you got to where you are today.
All right. I suppose with my chiropractic journey, it started as a kid when my mum took me to see a chiropractor because I was getting headaches all the time. And I was probably 8, 9 years old. She had taken me to a medical doctor, and the answer was, well, you just take an aspirin, which didn't make a lot of sense. So she took me along to a chiropractor, got checked and adjusted, had a big upper cervical focus, and my headaches went away. And so, you know, as a kid, that's great. Don't have these headaches anymore. And carried on from then, going to see the chiropractor. and went through high school, left high school, and wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I took a year off, and towards the end of that year, I was in seeing my chiropractor, and this is one of the things that I'm so grateful for. My chiropractor took 30 seconds out of his day to ask me what I was going to do with my life. And I said, I really don't know. I'm going to go to university. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said to me, I think you'll make a great chiropractor. We've got a chiropractic college opening here in Auckland, New Zealand next year. I think you should apply. And just those 30 seconds changed my life, because I went home. He gave me the application pack. We all had to fill it in by hand in those days. And I had to write an essay about why I wanted to be a chiropractor. And the reason was Doug had told me I'd be a good one. And whenever I went in to see Doug, he had a big smile on his face and seemed to be enjoying himself. And I thought, that's probably not what I need to put in this essay. So I pulled out the encyclopedia. We're talking before internet days, and read up about chiropractic, and what was in there really made sense. So put in an application the next day and enrolled at the college in the first year of the college with, I think there's about 23 of us in the class, and the journey went from there. So graduated in that inaugural class. It was quite a interesting ride. A new college where you're getting established with needing to get accreditation and all of that sort of stuff. But got into practice. As I told you just before, my son was born a couple of weeks before my board exams, so I had a young family. But I was in practice and I wanted to give back to the college, because so many people I'd seen give so much to give me my education. There was chiropractors putting their hands in their pocket, giving donations, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 to make sure our college survived, because they had a vision for chiropractic, and our college was a part of it. So I wanted to give back, started working in the chiropractic center, helping the interns. And while I was in private practice, then got into a bit of research more as a hobby, and then sort of every year got dragged a little bit more into the college. You put up your hand once, and we sort of rub our hands together and go, great, we've got them. So every year did that little bit more, and ended up doing my PhD, lecturing, getting heavily involved in the research program, and then 2021 got made president of the college.
Well, I just want to really focus on the idea that they started the school from nothing, and you knew that it was brand new, and you said, I want to do this.
One of the funniest things is, I look back at it now and laugh. One of our first lecturers is Phil McMaster, who's a great chiropractor, our past president, a good friend of mine. In that first lecture, he said, thank you for putting your faith in us, enrolling at a college that has no accreditation, but we're going to get you through. And I felt the little pucker of going, what? There's no accreditation? I just thought, you've started a college. Of course, everything's going to be okay there. Everything's going to be accredited. But they got us through. It was a tough ride, because the accreditation agency, the national board at those times, weren't 100% in favor of our style of chiropractic. So it was quite a ride getting that accreditation. It took our class, I think, about 9 months after we graduated before we were able to practice. There was all sorts of extra hoops and hurdles we had to go through and jump. But I look back now and think the education that our students get now is dramatically different, but I still loved what I went through back in those early days, the rawness of it, I suppose. But a lot of passion, a lot of passionate students, and a lot of passionate faculty and supporters.
Yeah, the blind faith of, you said 23 of you?
23, yeah.
The blind faith of 23 students to embark upon the journey of becoming the first chiropractors to graduate from New Zealand College of Chiropractic. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, a lot of those people are still my best friends today. I say that to all of our students when they come to the college. This is really your family now. And a lot of these people in this class that you've met today, they're going to be in your lives for the rest of your life. And some of them are going to get married and have kids. Probably it happens most years. But I look at those people like they're my family, and I'm in touch with them all the time, see them all the time because of those strong bonds that formed at college.
Well, I look at that as a huge bonus to the landscape of this profession too. Is now you're episode 651 of our show, and I've had a chance to digitally have time with 651 amazing chiropractors, and I think that says a lot of volume for what we're doing globally for chiropractic. Is some of the people that I've interviewed started becoming my best friends.
Yeah, 651. It's phenomenal. It's a fair chunk of the profession, isn't it?
Well, it's been a huge educational curve for me because I've learned about technique. I've learned about philosophy. I've learned about the different groups and organizations and the international groups and the state groups and the global groups and all these things that no one really understands until you go take a deep dive into it and you find the significance behind what makes this profession so amazing and unique and accessible. That's the part too, is chiropractic is so accessible that I've learned that most people just don't know who to go to or how to trust in the medical world. They just don't know what they're looking for is called chiropractic.
Yeah, 100%. One of my big goals is to increase the exposure of chiropractic. Particularly in New Zealand, so many people just don't know about it, and they're going through their lives not functioning as well as they could do. Functioning below par. And when you're in practice, you see people's lives changing all the time, and I feel for those people that haven't yet discovered chiropractic. So I want to do more and have our college doing more for particularly the people of New Zealand so they know what chiropractic is. No, it's not just about manipulation for your back pain. Know that there's so more to it. So that's one of my goals anyway.
Well, I've heard it said in the chiropractic circles a few times that just going to the chiropractor for neck pain or back pain or headaches is like going to the bank and robbing it just for its pins.
Yeah, absolutely.
and there's so much more to offer within that bank than just the pins at the front desk. And I think that there's so much more to offer to the chiropractic profession than just pigeonholing it into a pain-based model. And I think that there's a lot that's going on globally to raise the standard of education and communication. And that, I believe, is what sets chiropractic apart from every other healing art profession. Is the chiropractors are relentless with their message, and they are consistent with their message, and they're on brand with their message, and they're on purpose with their message. We just need to get more exposure to those messengers.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got more opportunity now than ever to share that message as well. So I think we just need to make sure that we're utilizing that opportunity as best that we can.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. As we transition into the interview process today, I have a lot of curiosity when it comes to New Zealand education and New Zealand practice style and all the things that you guys are doing over there. So maybe you can just start putting the story together with me. Why New Zealand Chiropractic College for any students out there that are curious about going and getting an education, become a chiropractor?
Well, we absolutely think we're the best chiropractic college in the world. We've got a very strong philosophical focus, the science and the art. We focus on all of those. Philosophy, that's what our college is founded on. The founders of the college, a lot of them came from Sherman, and they had that Sherman background, and they wanted to bring that to New Zealand because the profession in New Zealand, they felt, was getting somewhat diluted as chiropractors were coming to New Zealand from Australia that didn't have a strong philosophical focus in their colleges. So they wanted to keep that strong philosophical focus in chiropractic in New Zealand. So they established the college, and from day one, they wanted the philosophy to be strong. They wanted research and science to be strong, and have a strong art and technique program as well. So, if you look at the technique program, our students have to see a minimum of 500 adjustment visits before they graduate, which I think is right up there amongst the top of or the most out of any college in the world. And that's that minimum target. We want our students to be doubling that. We've got a goal to have our students seeing 1,000 people before they graduate, so they're ready to get into practice. And there's a lot of great colleges out there. I get along with a lot of the other college presidents who have that similar focus, but there's also many colleges that don't have that focus and are really diluting down chiropractic, and it's becoming about telehealth. It's giving advice for your back pain, and the checking and adjusting people for subluxations is almost the thing over on the side. But that's always our number one focus, because it makes such a big difference to people's lives. So we're never going to lose that focus with what we do and how we teach.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, the Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. I think the fundamentals are massive. And when you start removing the fundamentals, you start forgetting why you do what you do. And I think that that's a core element to Sherman College graduates helping with the New Zealand school, because they never lost vision of their North Star when it came to being subluxation centered and really philosophically grounded. And I think that that's a part where if we look at the other side of the aisle, that's why some of these other students that are coming out of schools that are less principled, like my shirt says, when they're less principled, they lack certainty when the times get tough. And they're willing to do whatever it takes, whether it's doing foot baths or, some type of anything other than adjust. They're willing to do whatever it takes to make it, because their philosophy wasn't strong. And they're like, well, we have to keep our doors open, so we'll do this and we'll just call ourselves chiropractors, but we're not really going to adjust anymore. So I think that that's where we get into trouble, is the schools don't fundamentally prepare. And over here, Dr. Kelly, I've talked to so many DCs beyond the people that I've done interviews with that tell me that the graduating chiropractors in this era are ill prepared for coming into the workforce. So I think it's really awesome that you guys focus the foundation on philosophy and the art of adjusting.
You've got to have the why. If you don't have the why, then you're going to struggle in practice. You got to get up every day, and that why has got to be strong in you and guiding what you're doing. So the philosophy is so important for everything that we do, the way we teach, and to run a successful practice. You can run a successful practice with treating back pain, but you're not going to have as much impact if you put that to one side and you're looking at improving human performance and adaptability, and you're going to enjoy yourself more going to practice instead of having people coming in all day, telling you how much it hurts.
Well, the front end, like you're saying, is the fundamentals, and the back end that completes this whole organization is the research. So I think having the foundation and then having the idea that we need to keep on pressing forward and creating the journals and the scientific research behind why we say this philosophy works is as vital as anything. So, hats off to you guys over there for continuously, promoting and producing solid research to support the philosophy that you teach.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, James. I was talking with Heidi, our VP of Research, I don't know, it was about a year ago. We were chewing the fat. I love catching up with Heidi. And I was saying, if we're not doing what we're doing and the other small number of chiropractic researchers out there who are doing the same thing, I could see our profession not existing in 20 or 30 years' time. Now, we need to provide the research to support what we're saying. And the research does do that, but we're fighting with a much bigger or broader band of the profession who want to take us somewhere else and are quite happy to discredit what we do. So research has always been a big focus for us, and now more so than ever. We've got about, last count was about 35 researchers working for us at the college. We've managed to grow it dramatically in the last 2 or 3 years because we think it is so important, and now more than ever. We talk about evidence-based practice. There's so much evidence for what we do, but you have so many people saying that the evidence doesn't even exist. So we've got to keep producing what we're doing and get louder and prouder in sharing it. And that's our goal. So we're building this big research team. We're doing more research now than ever, and we've got some pretty lofty goals for where we go with that.
Well, we need to get you on more platforms, such as other people like myself outside of chiropractic that are doing big shows that aren't promoted through mainstream media or mainstream social media, but are influencer packaged. Because I believe what you're saying right here in this specific segment, the world needs to hear from a leader from a principled chiropractic college that is doing the work, not just bandstanding and saying that this is what other people are doing. And I think it sends a channel of credibility to all the people that, get up on stage and talk about this beautiful profession. But a lot of these people are just regurgitating things that Heidi produces, and they're just regurgitating what Deed Harrison produces. They're not actually in the trenches producing their names on these papers that they're presenting. So I think it would go far further with these other people, say a Joe Rogan. If somebody like yourself that has done the research and has the credibility from your positioning to have that cultural conversation saying, hey, I know that you're kind of pissed, but let's have a real honest conversation about what chiropractic is and what it isn't. And then we can talk about your results or lack thereof.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much cool stuff going on that we just need to be sharing, getting that word out there. And look, that's one of those opportunities to make that happen. We're talking about Heidi. She's doing some fantastic work sharing what we're doing all around the world. So it's good to be making some inroads into those avenues, some more mainstream sort of avenues, and getting the word out there.
Well, just like research, if we plan for it and we execute it, it gets done. And I think that should be a high level execution point for all chiropractors that listen to this, is work at getting your message out to channels that aren't within the profession, and find the big names and build relationships with them. Talk to Russell Brand, get him talking about chiropractic. Talk to David Goggins, get him talking about chiropractic. Get to these bigger influential names like Jocko Willenick, speak to him, get him talking about chiropractic, and start getting platformed with these people that are mega stars that aren't being featured on mainstream media, and get the message out to the cult classics.
Yeah, Heidi did a podcast with Russell Brand not that long ago, and quite an interesting chap, she was saying, but had a great time and is hanging out in those circles. So we're making those small inroads there, and just need to do more.
Yeah, and that's just it. That's why we platform the way we do, because we know that because of the processes that we follow, it's titration. The more that you share the message into the atmosphere, into the arena of the media world, eventually the element changes when you drop enough colors into the one color, it changes the color and becomes a new element. So that's what it is about creating these story brands, is we are going to change the cultural conversation of how people think and speak about chiropractic if we just continuously do the right things.
Yeah, that's one of our big goals over here. With New Zealand, it's really a couple of islands sitting in the bottom of the South Pacific. And if you look at our profession, probably about 2/3 or 3/4 of our profession has graduated from our college. So they've come through with that same flavor of chiropractic. And we're working hard now with the Chiropractors Association, which is largely made up of our graduates as well, looking at how can we change the narrative of chiropractic in New Zealand. How can we work together to get this unified message out there and make inroads in that mainstream area, sharing that message, because it's much easier to do that in this sort of closed environment that we have here in New Zealand. We can make a difference with the resources that we have available. So we're currently working on about a 10-year plan of how we can change that narrative here, which will be a good start.
Well, I think that's a brilliant path. I am curious, because I know we're getting deep into the conversation today. I want to focus a little bit more on the education and talk about what that looks like if prospective students wanted to come and get a degree from the college. What does that process look like? And maybe you can talk about the fees associated with that if you're open to that.
Yep, sure. With our college, we take in around about 100 people a year. We have one intake each year, and about 2/3 of those are domestic New Zealand students and 1/3 are international. We think that's a pretty good ratio. We love having the international students coming over to the college, because for them to make that trip from, many are from Canada, most of our international students actually come from Canada, to make that trip over to New Zealand, they're committed. And when they get there, they're often turned into our student leaders, because they haven't just gone down the road to the college that's handy. They've traveled from the other side of the world to come and study. And often that's because of the philosophy that we have, the technique program that we have, and they're fantastic students and do help lift the bar. So if you look at the full course, our full course is 5 years long, and a school leaver can enter that course. So you don't have to do an undergraduate degree before coming to the college. What we also offer, though, is a 4-year course if you do have some undergraduate training. So a lot of our Canadian students, they'll already have a kin degree or be a couple of years into a kin degree, and then they skip that first foundational year and they come into the second year of the program. So for them, it's 4 years. If you look at the costs for international students, it's trying to do the maths in my head, it would be around about 20 grand US, I would think, a year. So there or thereabouts, depending on exchange rates. It's probably meaningless to talk about New Zealand dollars. So it would be around about that 20 grand US a year for 4 years if they have some of that undergraduate training already.
That is brilliant, because I'm sure that you see the trend globally and specifically in the United States with how the schools are producing students with such an insurmountable debt that it's so challenging for the student to actually make the first 5 years successful. So it's really encouraging to hear that somebody can finish up with a chiropractic degree from New Zealand for around 80,000 US and be able to go out there and start practicing.
Yeah, one of the things we're working on at the moment, and might be speaking too soon with this, is how can our interns start earning money through their practice at the college? Particularly those ones that are going over and above, we want them to get a head start for getting into practice. So, it is always front of mind for us. If you leave the college with a debt of 200 grand, 300 grand, it's really hard. It's hard to stay principled because you want every dollar that's coming through the door. So we do want to make it as affordable as possible. So some students do come over to us from internationally because they can get a more affordable education in New Zealand.
So translating that to how people fund themselves in the States, if people don't have out of pocket $80,000 to get a degree from New Zealand, how do they finance that degree?
There's different loans that are available. Depends on the country that people are coming from. So some countries will provide student loans for their students to study internationally. And sometimes it's family money. Sometimes people are saving up before they get here and then they're working. When I was training, I was working 35 hours a week because I didn't want a great big debt when I graduated. So it really depends on the country that you're coming from and what support you can get from your home country. Domestic students in New Zealand, they can put it all on student loans that are interest free while they're studying, which makes it easier.
So say somebody just in the role of me producing from the US, say a chiropractic student wanted to come over from the US, what is the typical pathway that you see people financing their degrees, and how do they come back after graduating from New Zealand and practice in the States?
US financial aid helps. We don't have a big US market. There's some great colleges in the US. More of our market is from Canada. We do have some students coming from the US and they take advantage of the US financial aid. And what we find is a lot of our international students, they'll get to New Zealand with the intention of going back home afterwards and either love the country or fall in love with someone over here and then end up staying or practicing in New Zealand, at least for 2 or 3 years before heading back overseas. New Zealanders love to travel. So a lot of our students, they'll come to the college, get their degree, and then travel around the world for a few years afterwards. But in the US, it all depends on the state that you want to practice in. I can't remember how many states our graduates are eligible to practice in at the moment. It's something like 20. And some of the states, you just can't practice if you come from the New Zealand College because you've got to go through, I think, a CCE accredited college where different accreditation, CCE A. But we do have students practicing in many of the states in the US and all around the world. I'm very lucky that I get to do a lot of traveling as a part of my job. And a lot of that travel is to catch up with our graduates. We want to know what's life like as a chiropractor in Canada, in the US, in Europe, and what can we do better to support our graduates when they're going into those different territories or countries after they leave New Zealand. So, we love seeing our graduates thriving, and so many of them are, because they're practicing that pure chiropractic, which is a point of difference from a lot of the chiropractors that are practicing down the road from them. So, I'm very proud of our students and the impact that they're having around the world.
Well, I love the amount of pride that you have in the college that you're at the helm of. I love the journey I asked you earlier on about your story and about how you started out as the first graduating class, which I think is brilliant. And now you're at the leadership position after Phil. And Phil's a brilliant man too. He's done so much for chiropractic globally, which, I'm sure it was big shoes to fill coming in and to start establishing yourself as the president of the school. So, great job on that, because I know Phil did a whole lot to establish the school and to get it the recognition globally. So I can't say enough great things about Dr. Phil. And I think what you're doing as a successor of that is nothing but good. And the amount of clarity that you have on the why and how you produce the future of chiropractic, I think everybody should take a listen and just see what else is possible, rather than sending your students to unprincipled schools that don't talk about philosophy and produce kids that know how to adjust. So I think you're very forward in the process with the education realm. And now we just need to create more influence as to why it's so exciting that others can come to New Zealand and learn how to be chiropractors and come back to where I live in the States and practice in at least 20 of them and have a life of it and not be attached to the same amount of debt that you would have to incur going to a university stateside.
Yeah, you make some great points there, James. I feel so grateful being in this job now because of the foundation that was laid before me. I always think about standing on the shoulders of giants, and there was so many people who've come before me that have laid this foundation, which makes my job so much easier than the job that they had, and building up to where we are now. So I'm so grateful for Phil and Brian Kelly, James Stenier, our early presidents. So we're very lucky, and it is all about the impact that we can have. Our vision is a world of people expressing optimal potential that guides everything that we do, and it's not just words on a wall. It really does influence us. We want to have a greater impact on humanity. So very grateful for what's gone before me.
Yeah, I had a chance to meet Brian Kelly like when I first got into the chiropractic world. And one of my favorite takeaways from him was, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
He gave a talk at this gathering I was at, and he was talking about all the incongruencies within chiropractic around the world. And he just kept on saying, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, it's not wrong.
So I think that, the succession that you're a part of has had some legends, and let's see where we can take this profession together. I'm in full support of what you're doing. And if anybody wants to learn more about chiropractic college over in New Zealand, it's chiropractic.ac.nz. And you guys can take the tour, learn more about global chiropractic, and how you can see 500 patient visits before you become a chiropractor, and have your education fundamentally sound within philosophy, and be at the cutting edge of research when it comes to chiropractic globally. So, Dr. Kelly, really appreciate you being on today. Your episode 651 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to mention or to offer before we call it a day?
No, I think I've covered off most of the things that we were chatting about before, James. I love the work that you're doing and the message that you're sharing out there, and we've just got to do more of it.
Yes, sir. Well, I don't know what time of the day it is over in New Zealand. It's about 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in Colorado, but if it's morning time, good morning to you. And if it's bedtime, good night to you.
It's coming up on 11 a.m. here at the moment, so just partway through the day.
Good morning, almost afternoon to you. And with that, I close out all the time by telling everyone, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now, Dr. Kelly.
Catch you, James. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.